Well, hello. My name is Jim Renaldo, and I am the Director of Sales and Marketing for Renaldo Sales and Service here in North Collins, New York. Today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our brand new tank dolly. It's called the EZTC206. And now what this dolly is, it's a dolly designed to move ASME propane tanks anywhere from 250 to 1,000 gallons. And it's designed to do it with one guy, and it's designed to do it with the least amount of disruption to your customer's property. And these days it's not so much even getting them in, but it's taking them out. And you know as well as I do that turning tanks over is just a fact of life these days. Today what we're going to do is we're going to run through the safety, the maintenance, and the operation of this unit. I'm going to show you how to hook it up, how to unhook it, some of the key features, some of the benefits of using this particular piece of equipment. And from there we'll kind of hopefully give you a nice general overview of what this dolly is all about and what it can do for your organization. What we're going to talk about right now are the main components of the EZTC206. There are three main components. You have the power unit and you have two wheel jacks. These wheel jacks unhook from the tank dolly and are positioned at the end of the tank, used to raise and lower one end. The power unit itself is raising and lower the other end of the tank. It also consists of a Honda GXV 340 11.5 horsepower engine. Now, what we're looking at here is the business end of the EZTC206. Now, what I want to point out from this vantage point is that every point where the tank dolly comes in contact with your tank is padded. You'll notice these huge rubber bumpers right here. Basically, we're talking about two on the wheel jack, one on the main power unit here for the dome of the tank, and then you have bumpers on the forks themselves. So the point of this is that every point where the dolly comes in contact with the tank is padded, so you're not going to scratch or mar your tanks. Okay, now if you follow me down to the tip of these forks, I want to point something out here. Now, I mentioned that this is padding to protect your tank so you don't scratch or mar it. But what's important here is that these pads rotate. You'll see that you can open up the gap and you can close the gap. When the pads are in this position, this will accommodate a 250-gallon ASME tank. Now, if you go any bigger, you want to do a 325, a 500, or 1,000, you're going to have to open this pad assembly up, and that basically opens the gap up. But we're still talking about a padded surface. All right, let's talk a little bit about the drivetrain. I'd like to point out some of the improvements we made on this dolly over the previous incarnation. Chief among them, if you'll follow me down here, is this nice heavy-duty, high-flotation, agricultural type tread tire. Now, in our previous versions of the dolly, we're using a single drive wheel, and we were finding that it was kind of sinking in a little bit. We were not real pleased with the way that was working. So what we did was we changed up, we removed the turret, and we added two high flotation agricultural tread tires. Now this is going to keep you above the ground. You're not going to be tearing it in. It offers good flotation, and it offers good traction. Okay, one of the features I'd like to point out about this dolly is the use of a new transmission, and we're very proud of this transmission. It fits perfectly for this particular application. Now, some of the features of this transmission which are applicable to you. First of all, it's providing some hydraulic power to the unit. It's actually allowing a hydraulic raise and lower of the main power unit forks, which eliminates a little of the cranking. One of the other features of this transmission is the fact we have a disengagement function here, which is actuated by just this simple lever. You engage it, it's in the in position. When you disengage the transmission, it's in the out position. Now the point of this is once this is in the out position, you can freewheel this dolly. And this is important if you get it stuck or you get it bogged down and you need to pull it out with the use of a winch or a truck or some other device to get it out of the stuck position. The other feature of this transmission, which is kind of nice, is this disc brake right here. And this is a nice safety feature. It's actuated by the handle. When the operator will lose control of the unit and he lets go of the handle, this brake will engage automatically and it'll stop the unit dead in its tracks. This hydrogear transmission is ideally suited for this particular application. It gives us some hydraulic power, it enables the operator to disengage the transmission to freewheel it, and it also provides us with a disc brake for a safety feature. Okay, as long as we're talking about the transmission, let's go over some of the main control components of the EZTC206. Now, the most important element here is the handle. This is your main control handle. This is your steering handle. This steering handle gives you a 180-degree turning radius. It also has all your main components for operating the tank dolly attached. First thing I want to talk about is this handle right here. This is to engage your posi-lock transmission, and you do that by gently wiggling the transmission or wiggling the drive tires to engage this. Once it's engaged, these wheels lock and it provides you with posi traction. You'd utilize this in difficult terrain or soupy conditions or some place where you would need a little bit more traction. And to disengage, you just simply release the handle and you're back with full mobility. Next component is the raise and lower component. Now I mentioned that the transmission is providing hydraulics. This is where you control the raise and lower of the main fork assembly. Now we have the forward and reverse control. This is a transmission control. You have variable forward, variable reverse speeds. It's a very fine type of a gearing, so you can achieve a lot of speed variations just by moving this handle. And finally, I want to point out that this handle is also spring activated. So if the operator were to lose control of the unit, the handle snaps up, engages the disc brake, and shuts the unit off. One of the nicest features of this dolly, for me anyway, is the electric start feature. And the way you would operate that is very simple. First of all, you have to remove the handle from the kill switch. If you leave this all the way forward, the engine will not start. It's in a killed mode. So you have to actually release the handle, press the throttle control all the way down into the start position, and then hit the electric start button. I'd also like to point out that we have a small little piece of metal here, and what this metal does is when you want to keep the unit running at an idle, if you're hooked to a tank or you want to keep it running without having to restart it, you would use this little piece of metal, slide it up, and it sits between the bumper and the kill switch. To deactivate that feature, all you simply do is pull the handlebar back and the metal drops back into place. Okay, what you've watched me just do is actually pull the power unit portion of the EZTC206 under one end of a 500-gallon bulk tank. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how to actually hook it up and how we handle the wheel jacks, and from there we'll take it for a little demonstration run. Alright, before we begin hooking up the tank dolly, what you want to do first is you want to take stock of your strap inventory. Now, provided with the tank dolly are 3 straps and 2 lifting chains. Now the first strap is a 3-inch strap with ratchet set. This is a nice beefy ratchet. This is a 16,000 pound braking strength strap, and this one is used to secure the power unit to the tank. Now the next straps we have are these smaller 2-inch straps, and these are 10,000 pound braking strength, and you'll notice there's a little hook provided on one end of this strap. Now these straps are used to secure the wheel jacks to the other end of the tank, and I'll demonstrate how you would hook these up in just a moment. And finally, we have a set of lifting chains. Now these chains, although you don't use them in normal operation, what you would use these for is if you wanted to utilize one of the wheel jacks as a tank jack, you could actually position this at one end of the tank, attach these 2 lifting chains, and you could raise one end of the tank out of the mud, or if you needed to set it on a block or whatever the case may be, or to level it out. So right now what we'll do is we'll begin the process by hooking up our power unit strap. Well, the first thing you want to do to attach the power unit to the tank is locate your 3-inch strap. I'm going to slow this down a little bit here, and I want to point out that this strap, that if you were to lose this strap while on a job site, you're pretty much dead in the water. So really keep an eye on your straps. Now the first step is to place the ratchet on top of the tank on this pad. You'll notice the pad is provided and it's sewn right into the ratchet. This prevents the tank from being scratched or marred by the 3-inch ratchet. The next thing you do is locate the end of your strap like this, position the ratchet, and then you just feed this strap to yourself on the other side of the tank. All right, I'm going to slow this down just a bit here and take a little bit of time because I want to illustrate where the correct position for this strap would be on the fork. Now you'll notice that this pad assembly is generally just lightly touching the tank. Now you want to position this strap at the very end of the fork, as far forward as possible. And although you can't probably see it in this shot, there is a sticker down here illustrating that where the correct position for the strap would be. So in order to actually hook this up properly, you'd want to just have the strap probably in this position right here. All right, we've come over to the other side of the tank here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to retrieve my strap that I fed to myself under the tank dolly. And again, you want to take care that you're not going to twist this strap. Once you have one end of it, then you need to position this ratchet. There's a barrel in here that turns and a slot. And this strap basically goes between in the slots in that barrel. Just tighten it up. You don't have to kill yourself on this. That's probably about as snug as you're going to need it right there. It is secure. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our wheel jacks off the main power unit, and then we're going to position them down at the other end of the tank. Now, before we can actually unattach the wheel jacks from the main power unit, the dolly came in, and obviously these wheels are on the ground. So the first thing you want to do is, before you can unattach it, you have to raise these wheels up just a little bit. And you would do that simply by cranking on this handle. As the wheel comes up, you'll notice you'll be able to spin it. Right now, it's probably a good time to take that wheel jack off. And you do that simply by releasing this latch, pulling the wheel jack off the cradle, and then simply walking it down to the end of the tank. All right, we got the one wheel jack down at the end. You'd repeat the procedure on this side as well. Just do a simple raise the wheel off the ground, just enough to have the tires spin. Okay, unlock the latch, drop the dolly off the ledge, and push it down to the end of the tank adjacent to the other wheel jack. Next step would be to secure it using these 2-inch straps. Now, before we actually put this strap on, we have to position this wheel jack properly. Now, what we want to do here is we want to put this wheel jack in the lowest position possible. And why we're doing this is because when we attach it to the tank, this will give us the greatest amount of lift. I hope you understand that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lower this wheel jack all the way down to the very bottom of its stroke. You simply turn this handle until you can't turn it any longer. This will ensure that we're going to get maximum lift if we need it. Okay, that's the bottom of the stroke. Now we just want to reposition the wheel jack so both pads are touching the tank, like such. And you would want to repeat this procedure on the other side. But for right now, what we're going to do is now we're going to hook up the strap, and we'll deal with that jack in just a moment. Okay, the first thing you do, throw your strap out, locate your hook. Now, if you come down here, you'll notice on this wheel jack that there is a little bar right here. That is the position where this strap actually goes. You just hook this hook onto that little bar. Okay? Now, what you want to do prior to that is you want to locate the end of your strap and feed it through the guide on the wheel jack here. This will actually ensure that straps do not slip, and you're just basically taking care not to kink the strap. You want to just kind of feed this to yourself on the other side of the unit. All right, we'll slow it down here just a bit. I want to point out that there are 2 sides to this strap. Now on this side you'll notice a red stripe down the middle, and on this side there is not a stripe. Now this is a visual indicator for you so you're aware of where your position of your strap is when you're feeding it to yourself under the tank. It'll help you not to keep this kinked or ripped. Now the first thing we do is we retrieve the end of the strap and we feed it up through the guide located at the base of the wheel jack. Okay, no kinks. From there, position the ratchet so we can insert the strap through the slot. And just give it a couple cranks to secure it. Strap came over the top of the tank. Locate the end, feed it through the barrel on the other side. Now what we're doing here is we're actually creating a cradle for this tank utilizing these nylon straps. Now we're going to repeat the procedure you just saw on the other side. The only difference being is that we're going to take this hook, and instead of hooking it on this side, we're just going to alternate it and hook it on the other side. The same procedure. Take the hook, secure it to the bottom of the ratchet, straighten out your strap, feed it through the guide to yourself under the tank. I'd also like to point out that this entire procedure, once you get used to it, should only take you between 7 and 10 minutes. This is not a real lengthy procedure, and it goes by real quick. And we come around to this side, retrieve our strap, up through the guide, through the ratchet, taking care not to twist the strap, and over the top of the tank, and then we'll be securing it on that side. Okay. Once you have both straps attached, now you can feel free to tighten this up. And you will repeat that procedure on the other side. Okay, that's all there is to it. We have the power unit attached. Okay, now that we got both wheel jacks attached, the next step is to simply raise it off the ground. And you do that by moving these handles. You only want to bring this up just as much as you absolutely have to. You don't need to take it up to the full 19 inches. Just come off the ground about 3 or 4 inches, that should be good. And you crank this side up, kind of matching the other side in height. Now once you have this end of the tank off the ground, we'll go to the power unit end and we'll start the motor and we'll hydraulically raise the power unit end of this up. Okay, we're going to slow things down a little bit here, and I want to show you the position of these wheel jacks. Now, this is an incorrect position for the wheel jacks. And the reason I say that is because if you'll notice, they're towed in the out position. Now, you want to hook it up this way as opposed to having the wheels bowed out. And the reason for this is because once the weight of the tank is resting on these wheel jacks, the wheel jacks have a tendency to kind of straighten out. So basically the correct orientation for these jacks is as you see it right here with the wheels towed in. Okay, before we start this up, let's just take a moment to do a quick review. Now what we've done is we've moved the tank dolly under one end of a 500-gallon propane tank. We've raised the power assembly forks just so they're touching the tanks themselves. Then what we've done is we've secured the 3-inch ratchet to the power unit, and it's important to do it in this sequence. You need to attach the power unit first before you can attach the wheel jacks. Once you have the power unit attached, you've moved the wheel jacks down to the other end of the tank, and you've attached and secured both wheel jacks to the end of the 500-gallon cylinder. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back, we're going to start it up, and we're going to use the hydraulics to raise up the power unit. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start up the tank dolly, and we're going to use the hydraulics that are provided in that transmission, and we're going to raise the power unit end up of this tank. Okay, you've seen how to hook up the tank dolly. Now I'm just going to give you a quick explanation of how to unhook it. And it's really quite simple. It's just the same procedure in reverse. You begin by lowering the tank to the ground using the provided handles, disconnecting the straps from the tank itself, placing the dolly wheels back onto the power unit, releasing the power unit strap, and backing away from the tank. It's just the same procedure in reverse. Now what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you just a few maintenance points on these wheel jacks. There's some threads and bushings in here that you're going to need to grease, and I'll just show you that in just a sec. All right, now that I've got the wheel jack off, I want to show you where are some of the maintenance points on this wheel jack. Now, if the camera would focus right in here, you'll notice that there is an ASME thread, there's a turn thread bushing, and then there's a bearing in here. Now the way you access this particular assembly is by cranking up the wheel jack. Now the reason you do this is you want to get some grease on that ASME thread and the bearing. So you'd probably raise this up about halfway, apply some grease to this thread. We're using a silicone type of a grease, something that's waterproof, and that'll actually lubricate the turn thread bushing and the bearing that is in the top of this assembly right here. And every time you raise and lower that, you'll actually be lubricating that bearing. All right, as long as we're talking about the wheel jack, I'm going to show you one of the nice features about this tank dolly, where you can utilize this wheel jack as a tank jack. Now, the way you would do that is simply release it from the tank, push it around to the dome of the tank, and just rest the bumpers on the dome. The friction will kind of hold it there. Then you locate your lifting chains, secure this clevis into the leg, the chain link into the base of the wheel jack. There's a slot provided. You will repeat the procedure on the other side. Now the tank jack becomes a lifting jack. All right, once you got both lifting chains attached, then it's just simply a matter of cranking it up. One other point I'd like to make about the unit is the fact that we have provided for your use a lifting hook. Now this hook is actually positioned dead center of the dolly, and this is the point where you would make the connection to your crane if you were craning this dolly onto your truck. I'd also like to point out that this dolly cannot be craned onto a vehicle while it's attached to a propane tank. It needs to be done separately. You would put your tank on, and then you would put the dolly on. And the space provided that you're looking at is the spot where we store our straps. Well, that's about all the time we got right now. First thing we'd like to do is we'd like to thank you for watching this tape. We hope you enjoyed it and you learned something from it. We think these kinds of presentations are very important components of your safety programs. And we also have tapes that are on the operation of the 420 mover. In case you have that inside your operation, we'd be more than happy to send that to you as well. Now, from all of us here at Renaldo Sales and Service, we'd like to thank you for being a customer of ours, and we sincerely hope that this unit gives you many years of good service. So from all of us, thank you very much for watching, and hope to hear from you soon.